Okay, so we're at our last stop today, and there's a lot of things that I want to tell you about in this area. One is that we're still in the Garden of Tullerie, and Tullerie has a really interesting history. It was built by Catherine de' Medici, and there was actually a royal palace here at one point in time, but it got burnt down. So lesson to be learned, do not build your palace out of wood. So this was all enclosed for safety measures, and so there was a forest here with a menagerie of animals. The king of the time used to come and hunt here. It was a really beautiful place, and this actually became the first the largest park that was in Paris. So it was a really beautiful place to come and visit, and it still is today, as you'll see. So lovely fountains, always cafes open inside the park as well. So be sure to come back and enjoy the flowers and all of that. One other thing that I wanted to mention, beside the fact that we're in this beautiful place, is that there's museums in here as well. Lingerie with those beautiful water lilies that are so famous and popular. But one of my favorite parts is that when you get to the end of the park here, we're on the edge of Place de Concord. So Place de Concord, you might see the obelisk right behind me, and that was actually brought over from Egypt. It stood outside of the Luxor, for real. It took like 3 years for them to bring it here, and it's really, really beautiful. But the interesting thing is that it stands in the middle of Place de Concord, and Place de Concord is famous for a number of reasons. One of the most interesting is that this is actually where they did all of the executions after the French Revolution. So this is actually where the guillotine was, that they killed over 40,000 people, including King Louis XVI. So this was a pretty bloody square and quite popular. It was kind of entertainment of the time. People would come out for the day and watch the execution. That was reality TV. So guillotine, Joseph Guillotine, just like Eiffel Tower, they named the instrument after the man. He actually was pro-life. He was a surgeon. He was on this earth to save people. So why is it that he made this object of destruction, correct? Well, actually, he had seen a lot of these executions, and they were becoming really brutal. People were cheering, they were so happy, and if you've seen Game of Thrones, it's pretty brutal. They would go and they'd chop the guy's head off, and they didn't always get it off on the first time. Sometimes it took 5-6 times to get somebody's head actually to sever from their body. And it was cruel, and he didn't like that people were, not only were these people suffering, but that people were getting great enjoyment out of it. So he, as a surgeon, developed this blade that was precise in cutting the head off so quickly that they would reach into the basket and pull the head out, and people thought that the person was still alive because their eyes would twitch and they would like have facial reactions. It was just the nerves, but people really thought that they were alive. But he was so good at what he did in regards to creating this machine that it was used a lot. So Place de Concord, very interesting. For those of you Star Trek geeks, this is actually the location of the Federation of Planets. So if you wanted a more modern twist on the location, or you need to get your husband to come out and see it with you later. Also, we're toward the other side of the city, and this is actually where you'll spend the majority of your time if you do our City of Lights tour. It is a really, really good tour, and it starts at 7:30 each night. Let's see, I think that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So anyway, go ahead and book that, or you can come with me after this. We have a restaurant not too far from here if you want to walk with me, and we can talk about other tours that you can take. You can go ahead and purchase some tickets there as well. We have a nice, lovely restroom available for you. There's some food and beverages if you like, or plenty of cafes around. Don't forget, I'm your friend, so I have a lot of recommendations for you, and we can sit down and talk about what else can make your trip here very good. So before we end our tour, I want to talk about the most important part of Paris, and that is the beautiful Eiffel Tower right behind me. So Le Tour Eiffel, interesting history there. So Napoleon had come into power, and they were going to have the World's Fair, and he wanted he wanted something grand, something memorable, something fantastic that people would never forget. So at the entrance of the tower of the World's Fair, he wanted to build this beautiful, huge tower, some kind of entry that was going to be amazing that people would never forget. So he actually wrote the specifics that he wanted it to be a certain height, and he put it out there and said, okay, everybody submit your ideas. And a lot of things came back, but they couldn't be done. It was like a gigantic purple elephant. I don't know where that came from. A giant sunflower, which makes sense because if you've been in the South, you see a lot of sunflowers. I mean, look at Van Gogh, made them famous. But Eiffel came up with this idea of making this steel structure, and they didn't really buy it. And in fact, he should have been a politician because he went to all of the voting members and convinced them, like, my design is superior and I actually can make mine work. And so they went back for a vote and they voted it in. So he went to work, but they didn't believe that he could make this enormous structure out of metal, and they were very concerned about it. So concerned about it, in fact, that they did not want to fund it. And so what he did is he agreed. He said, what I'll do is I will pay to build this structure, but I would like to charge an entry fee for people coming in to visit. And they said, sure, make your money back however you want to make it. We just don't want to give you any money, just build it. It was built in a record amount of time, super fast. And not only that was it built super fast, but it was built so well, it was so exciting to people that he made his money back on people going up to the top in 6 months. It paid for itself. Now, because it has that structure going up like that and being hollow, it has the great ability to handle the winds at that height. And so it only has a sway of maybe like 9 inches. It's really structurally sound. And when you get up close to it, you'll see a lot of names along the sides, and that is the names of different contributing architects that helped to make that beautiful structure. So just so you know, you pay per level. So the more you pay, the higher you get to go. There's obviously a couple of restaurants in there, so you can enjoy a lovely meal or a not so lovely meal, but a lovely view. Remember that if you eat inside the Eiffel Tower, you cannot see the Eiffel Tower. So a better view is to go to something like Tullerie Montparnasse, and we have tickets available for that as well to help you out at a little bit of a discount. So the Eiffel Tower is it's like the symbol of France. But it was only supposed to be here for 20 years. And Eiffel didn't really like the idea of that, but you know, like I said, he is a politician, so, well, or should have been a politician. So he went to the next World's Fair, and he learned about the antennas that were being used for radio. Radio became a huge thing, and what did he do? He slapped an antenna right on top, and you can still see that today. It still is existing. So he branched 2 World's Fairs because the first World's Fair was so popular they did it again in Paris the next time. So he actually had the Eiffel Tower built at the first World's Fair and then added the antenna at the second World's Fair. So he actually took place in both World's Fairs, and that antenna gave a purpose to the monument, which allowed not just communication for radio, but it also helped during wartime as well. And now it is considered something that nobody would ever imagine taking down. It is a symbol of France, and it is most loved by many. I do recommend getting your tickets ahead of time to go up into the tower because it can be a little bit of a line, but I think that you're going to really enjoy it. It's really beautiful, and our tour that we do at night does end with a beautiful sparkling view of the tower. You'll also see the bridge that commemorates the death of Princess Diana, and you'll see Champs-Élysées. So we are very close to Champs-Élysées as well. So just so you know, even though the Eiffel Tower looks like it's really close, it's not super close, okay? So it is probably going to take you a good half hour to 45 minutes to walk there from here. So there's a metro really close to here. I can go ahead and direct you to that if you don't want to come back to the restaurant with me. And I just want to say thank you all so very much for being such an amazing crowd. I really enjoyed our group today. I hope that you enjoyed our time together as well, and that you learned a little bit about my favorite city, and I think maybe your favorite city as well. And so enjoy France, and bon voyage!